was very excited December of 2014. Putting together my list of top 10 films was mind-numbing. Every single entry had a Best Picture nomination quality. How exactly does one pick between Whiplash, Gone Girl, The Imitation Game, Nightcrawler, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, The Lego Movie, John Wick, Snowpiercer, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and Captain America the Winter Soldier? All films that deal with complex issues and never lose their grip on you. They were some of the most well-directed films I'd ever seen, and even today, a full year later, I get excited about watching them. In fact, I've rewatched all of these films several times since their release, and never have they lost their charm. By the time the year was out, everyone was ready to bring in 2015 with all of its comic book films, franchise revivals, new franchise entries, and the latest entries in the filmography of celebrated directors. We thought that this was it. And then it was immensely disappointing. Fantastic Four was the big warning sign that maybe we'd overblown things, but then you look at the road that leads to December of 2015, and danger was always there. Terminator Genisys, Jupiter Ascending, even Pixels, which had one job: be moderately funny. That's it. Just give me a couple chuckles and I'm happy. No one's expecting anything from you, Sandler. And then it turns out to be painfully bad. That might be the key phrase in all of this. Not only was 2015 a disappointing year for film, but when things got bad, they were painfully bad. My favorite example is Spectre. Same team as Skyfall, the return of Blofeld, the culmination of everything we've been seeing since Casino Royale, and it turns out to be one of the worst James Bond films ever. Quantum of Solace was a better movie than Spectre. A writer's strike film that may induce seizures because of how bad the camera work is turned out to be a deeper and more thematically coherent film than the immature, unintelligible waste of potential that is Spectre. I was looking forward to Brad Bird's Tomorrowland, which wasn't a bad film, it just sort of got lost in itself the same way Nolan's Interstellar did. Jurassic World was a box office juggernaut, and it was okay, kind of fun, nothing amazing, but ultimately felt like a video game I couldn't play. Ant-Man wasn't an awful movie, but it's definitely one of the weakest entries in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All this to say that 2015 was not a year to write home about. Picking this year's top 10 wasn't easy, not because every film here is worthy of Best Picture, but because I wasn't sure if I actually loved any 10 films that came out this year. I spent the last week watching as many films as I could, but there's still a good number of major top 10 list contenders that I couldn't see, the big ones being Trumbo, The Big Short, and The Revenant, but that's what you get when you live in a small town and films get limited releases. With that in mind, here's my top 10 films of 2015.
Congratulations, San Francisco! You've ruined pizza! Who's the birthday girl? Ah! Brain freeze!
Hang on! Riley, here we come!
Pixar isn't a perfect studio. It often gets that label, but the more of these films we see, the more we get used to the formula they use to generate emotional reactions. That said, Inside Out felt like a return to form. Just a simple story that everyone involved really wanted to tell and seemingly had fun with. There's some predictable elements here and there, but at its core, it's about one person dealing with change. It's one of the most relatable films the studio has ever made. The idea of having the emotional journey come from Riley's family moving and her having to be positive for the sake of her parents is genius and generated quite a bit of emotion from me. The relationship between experience, genetics, and emotions all very well crafted and quite fascinating. There's lots of care put into the rules of this world, but also a presentation of emotion that was consistent with actual psychological theory. Inside Out may not be one of the all-time best animated films ever, but its simplicity and creativity is appreciated, especially paired with such a heavy concept that you can only do so much with in an animated children's film.
You can't always please the crowd. Still not bowing down. In this heavy crowd,
of a bitch!
A lot of my friends wanted to call 2015 the year of the spy. Spectre, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, Spy, Kingsman, and Spectre all came out this year, and if you're into spy films at all, you'd think you'd be in for a year-long Christmas. That said, only having one spy film on my list makes me feel like I'm making a statement about the state of the genre and what we got this past year. We already know I hate Spectre, but I loved The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which wasn't a TV show I ever cared for, but the energy and fun of the film was so intoxicating that you couldn't help but have a smile on your face all the way through. Rogue Nation wasn't bad, but I've never cared for the Mission Impossible film franchise, plus I just can't stand Tom Cruise. Spy I didn't see, but then you get to Kingsman, which is an unabashed love letter to Roger Moore's time as James Bond, and a statement from Matthew Vaughn that maybe the spy genre has gone too far in one direction, namely the Jason Bourne, Daniel Craig direction of brutality and grit. This isn't a bad thing. Casino Royale and Skyfall are great films. On top of that, spy films have always had a pleasant mix of fun and grit, even in Roger Moore's Bond films. But I do see where Vaughn's coming from. Given just the last 15 years of spy films, I can't give a child the same when I grow up I want to be a secret agent dream that I had as a kid. There's fun, but there isn't necessarily fantasy anymore. Kingsman tries to explain just that, a kid with no direction, expectations of the world that may or may not match with the reality of it, and a standard of sophistication that has to be held no matter what. Not only is Kingsman a fun movie, it's exactly what Spectre thinks it is in its balance of campiness and serious social commentary. There isn't a genius artsy message here. It's just a film that's trying to have fun while poking fun at the history of spy fiction, and it does that incredibly well. There's a clear love for every element of spy fiction here, and yet it still manages to have its own flavor.
As the world fell, each of us in our own way was broken. It was hard to know who was more crazy. Me or everyone else.
I don't know what to say about this film. Everyone on the face of the earth loves Fury Road. Critics, general moviegoers, old-school Mad Max fans, and even people who can't stand the franchise. It's subtle, beautifully directed, and consistently thrilling. The film hooks you and never lets go. And then there's the real star of the show, Furiosa. After the original film, Max has been a pretty stoic, unchanging character, often just dealing with different levels of danger and handling it with a familiar indifference. Then you get to Furiosa. She has a mission, she has a full spectrum of emotion, she has a moral code, she even has a sense of humor. She's the most well-rounded character in the whole Mad Max franchise. More than that, she's another important step in the constantly evolving presentation of strong female characters. There's an important exploration of gender identity through her mission, but more importantly, she's able to forge her own identity, breaking the bondage of social convention a la Golden Age Wonder Woman. An entire analysis could be done by watching only her scenes in the film on mute. Now that's a kind of craftsmanship that's very, very rare.
Now, Roger's been a help to you. He's always been clever.
It's evidence.
Now we must solve it.
A convincing set of circumstances signaling your intention to murder your husband.
Mr. Holmes.
I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan. Like Batman, I don't remember a time where I didn't like Holmes. I'm convinced that much of my academic interests come from reading Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's incredible stories with the best detective in fiction. So getting a film about Holmes where he feels irrelevant, where he's lost his power, where nothing is as it was and he can't let go, sign me up. Again, simplicity rules the day. You don't have to throw in every symbol, concept, theory, philosophy, and historical parallel you can think of into the mix just to make a good script. Just give us a person that I care about and build everything around my need to understand this character. The symbolism of the bees is very direct, but that's okay, because it's not trying to act smarter than it is. The film is innocent, it's charming, and it's slow, all of which give it a raw emotional power that's boosted by the incredible acting. Sir Ian McKellen may have given his best performance ever with this film.
When you get to Harold, tell him Daisy sent you.
You gon' die now!
Every time Tarantino makes a film, the first thing I want to say is that this is his best. He is constantly topping himself, not by redoing the same idea over and over again, but by focusing on different ideas and filmmaking areas every time. As a guy that thinks digital is the new standard and film has run its course, The Hateful Eight is the best argument I have seen for film over digital. It is without a doubt one of the best shot films ever, and most certainly the best shot film of 2015. Incredible, jaw-dropping cinematography paired with Tarantino dialogue and a complex discussion of justice as passion make this film not only a must-see, but one of Tarantino's absolute best works.
Bring back everything that's ever hurt you. All the pain you had inside. They don't know what we've been through. You belong here. I found life.
The one thing I can say about 2015 over 2014 is that physically going to the theater to see a film was a better experience than watching them at home, not only with how beautiful The Hateful Eight looks on a giant screen, but also the crowd reactions to films like Creed. The audience was chanting Creed as the film wrapped up its final act, they cried when Adonis cried, they clapped when he clapped. This film was truly an experience. On its own, it's a brilliant argument for the idea of literary remix and making the old new, as not only a constant force, but as a crucial one in order to represent the evolution of social issues. Everything from Adonis Creed's race, to environment, to parentage, plays into our growing definition of overcoming, and what it truly means to forge an identity in 2015, as opposed to the late 70s and 80s. This is easily one of the best entries in the franchise, capturing the somber humanity of Rocky Balboa while giving us the same energy and inspiration as Rocky 1 and 2. Michael B. Jordan knocks it out of the park as Adonis Creed, which is even more impressive when you see Stallone give one of the best performances of his career, and Jordan is still going toe-to-toe with him. These two actors never outshine each other. They are constant forces and perfect complements.
No matter what happens, tell the world, tell my family that I never stop fighting to make it home.
Earlier I said that some of my friends wanted to call 2015 the year of the spy. Well, I want to call it the year of science fiction, because my top 4 represent several different aspects of classic science fiction that have been reinvigorated. The first of those 4 is The Martian. This was a film I had no interest in. Ridley Scott has been hit and miss for years now, and it just looked like Interstellar. Then I found out Drew Goddard wrote the script and originally signed on to direct. Now that piqued my interest. Even with Scott's familiar style, the script feels very Goddard, and by extension, very Whedon. The humor is perfectly placed, but some of the best character insights come from jokes. It's a science fiction film about the essence of humanity, and explores how our natural curiosity allows for improvement. You take the whole world away from a person, and they will do their best to recapture it, which is an endlessly fascinating message. Matt Damon does a remarkable job, considering most of the film is him sitting there talking to himself. And like some of the other films on this list, it looks incredible in the theater. There's a magic to it that you can't quite have through home release. Yeah, I'm not going to say much of anything here. I made a 2-hour analysis of this film, a 30-minute reflection, and a full commentary. It's my favorite superhero film of all time. I love it. To go with the science fiction theme, there's a quality of essentialism to my number 4, number 3, and number 2. With The Martian, it was about the essence of humanity. Here, it's about the essence of ethics. If you want to hear more, just watch my 2-hour analysis on the film.
Does Ava actually like you, or is she just pretending to like you? Self-awareness, manipulation, sexuality.
Are you attracted to me?
Now, if that isn't true AI, what is?
Caleb, there's something I want to show you.
Can we talk about the lies you've been spinning me?
What lies?
Today, I'm going to test you.
Why me?
Caleb, you have to help me.
What was the real test? You.
Is it strange to have made something that hates you? What will happen to me if I fail your test?
And the science fiction essentialism quality here is identity. Every line of dialogue, every design, every move in this film is deliberate. It asks questions about the nature of identity, humanity, truth, and morality that give Blade Runner a run for its money. On my initial viewing, I wasn't expecting too much here, and quickly found out that if I was going to discuss this film in any way that'll do it justice, I'll have to watch it a dozen more times and make more notes. Age of Ultron is very practical with its artificial intelligence themes. We get the ball rolling simply by accepting Ultron's humanity, and then moving the discussion to humanity and ethics. Ex Machina is a step back that examines the essence of artificial intelligence and its evolution into a concrete identity and base human urges. It deconstructs every thought you'll ever have and why you have them. Sometimes philosophy gets to the point where you break down a crucial concept so much that you have to force yourself to stop because you're afraid of losing that concept altogether if you ask just one more question. That feeling is this movie, and that's why I love it. Was there ever any doubt? This film is outstanding, beautifully shot, beautifully written, and one of the most memorable experiences I have ever or will ever have in the theater. The plot's weak. There's a lot of conveniences and questions left hanging, but that's okay, because this film is about two things: the characters and the future of the franchise. Rey, Finn, Poe motherfucking Dameron, and Kylo Ren are perfectly crafted. Ren in particular is one of the most fascinating Force users we've ever had in Star Wars canon, to the point where even his lightsaber is representative of who he is as a person. These characters are the future of the franchise, and the future is bright with everything they have to offer with their mix of the old and new, which brings me to point 2. People are complaining that Star Wars is moving forward by simply copying the past. This film is just a new hope. Well, to those critics, I think they missed the point. See, a while back, I mentioned the phrase literary remix. That's what this film is. Its plot is the same as the original Star Wars, but every thematic layer is reversed. Kylo Ren alone is a perfect distillation of everything this film is doing to deliberately mimic the previous films while giving us a powerful subtext that runs in reverse. This film is about the legacy and impact of not only the original Star Wars, but Star Wars as a whole. The Force Awakens is not only about the rebirth of the light side and its battle against the dark, but also the new chapter in the saga that fans have wanted for years. It's not a perfect film, but it's one that represents everything great about storytelling through its use of the new and old, and everything great about the movie-going experience when you sit in the theater losing yourself in the fantasy that is this universe. This film is Rebirth. And there you have it, my top 10 films of 2015. Things started a little depressingly, but I turned it around by the end, don't you think? All in all, even if 2014 was a better year for film in general, I'm still happy with all 10 of these films, and hopefully 2016 gives us even more cinematic triumphs. Let me know what you thought of my list, and let me know what your list is in the comments. I'll see you next time.